It was a dark and stormy night, perfect for Halloween. A group of teenagers decided to go to the haunted house on the edge of town. They had heard stories about the house, but they didn't believe them. They walked up to the house and knocked on the door. No one answered. They knocked again, louder this time. Still no answer. The teenagers decided to just go inside. They opened the door and stepped inside. The house was dark and dusty. The teenagers could hear the wind howling outside. They slowly made their way through the house, calling out for someone. They came to a room at the end of the hall. The door was slightly ajar. They peeked inside. There was a woman sitting in a chair in the middle of the room. She was wearing a long white dress and her hair was covering her face. The teenagers were too scared to say anything. They just stared at the woman. The woman slowly raised her head. Her eyes were black and empty. She opened her mouth and let out a blood-curdling scream. The teenagers turned and ran. They ran out of the house and into the night. They didn't stop running until they reached their homes. The teenagers never went back to the haunted house again. But one night, a few years later, one of the teenagers decided to go back. He had been haunted by the memory of the woman in the white dress. He wanted to see if she was still there. He walked up to the house and knocked on the door. No one answered. He knocked again, louder this time. Still no answer. He opened the door and stepped inside. The house was dark and dusty, just like he remembered it. He slowly made his way through the house, calling out for someone. But there was no answer. He came to the room at the end of the hall. The door was slightly ajar. He peeked inside. The woman in the white dress was gone. But there was something else in the room. It was a tall, dark figure. It was standing in the corner of the room, facing the wall. The teenager was too scared to say anything. He just stared at the figure. The figure turned around. It had no face. The teenager screamed and ran. He ran out of the house and into the night. He didn't stop running until he reached his home. The teenager never went back to the haunted house again.